Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of a father's semen, and thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies according to one's past actions. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it. And sometimes, fortunately, prays to the Lord for such liberation. Maharaj Parikshit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy, and the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. And for this reason, the word Viraha has been used. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So this 12th chapter in the first canto describes the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. The topics in the first canto are arranged in a particular sequence. The first canto begins with 6 questions being asked by the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, when they have just begun a 1,000-year sacrifice in the holy place of Naimisharanya. And this sacrifice was meant for the welfare of the people of the world just before the beginning of Kali Yuga. Because they could foresee in Kali Yuga people will be so much handicapped as regards their own spiritual advancement. So in order to bring about the welfare of the people of Kali Yuga, the unfortunate people of Kali Yuga, these saintly persons, sages, whose life is dedicated for others' welfare, they began a 1,000-year sacrifice. And that sacrifice was the sacrifice of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna. It was a Sankirtan Yajna that they performed in Naimisharanya. So in order to make inquiries about the glories of the Lord, they chose Suta Goswami, the most qualified devotee, to glorify the Lord. So the beginning chapter of the first canto describes the 6 questions asked by the sages to Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami's replies are given in the 2nd and 3rd chapter. So at the end of the 3rd chapter, after completing his replies to the 6 questions, Suta Goswami tells the sages of Naimisharanya, now I shall begin to describe the Srimad Bhagavatam, because I see that you are very eager to hear about Krishna. So the sages are very, very happy. They thank Suta Goswami for deciding to recite the Bhagavatam. But they have some more questions before Suta Goswami can begin narrating the Bhagavatam. So, Suta Goswami begins narrating the Bhagavatam in the second canto. In the first canto, the remainder of the first canto, balance of Hare Krishna, don't talk loudly. I'm sorry. In the first canto, after the third chapter, some more questions by the sages of Naimisharanya are being asked. Before you begin narrating the Bhagavatam, kindly tell us how Vyasadeva got inspiration to compile this great literature. When did he take it up? Where did he begin this compilation? And what was the impetus for him to compile this wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam? Also tell us about Shukadev Goswami, who spoke the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And tell us about Parikshit Maharaj himself. We have heard that he was a great devotee. His birth, his activities are all extraordinarily wonderful. Kindly tell us something more about Parikshit. So to answer their questions about Vyasa compiling the Bhagavatam, about Shukadev Goswami, how did he meet Parikshit Maharaj? Because he was wandering like a madman, totally unconcerned about the society, the social etiquette. He was a liberated soul by birth. So he was not interested in any of the ordinary activities of people in general. So he was wandering, disinterested in every ordinary activity, absorbed completely in the thought of the Supreme Lord. So how did Parikshit meet this Shukadev Goswami? How did he meet means, how could he recognize here is a great soul? Because Shukadev Goswami, he was wandering naked. He didn't even care to cover his body. And he was surrounded by some urchins, some foolish people laughing at him, sometimes even throwing stones at him, like that. So how could Parikshit Maharaj recognize the Shukadev Goswami? So they are inquiring about the meeting. How did the meeting happen? So all those questions are answered by Suta Goswami in chapters 4 up to 19. 19th chapter describes the meeting of Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. The 4th chapter begins with how Vyasadeva got the inspiration to write or compile the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are in the 12th chapter describing the birth of Emperor Parikshit as requested by Shaunaka, the sages headed by Shaunaka. So it is described that before even Parikshit could come out of his mother's womb, he was protected, saved by Krishna, Lord Krishna, even in his mother's womb. So what is the background for this? In the 8th chapter, it is described that at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the Kauravas were completely defeated. Not only defeated, they all died in the battle. This Ashwathama, the son of Dronacharya, who was fighting on the side of the Kauravas, he somehow wanted to kill the Pandavas in order to please his master, Duryodhana. He could not do anything to the Pandavas, but out of desperation, he killed the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, Upapandavas, who were also fighting in the battle, but he did not kill them in a proper combat. When they were sleeping, he cut off their heads. And he brought them to show to Duryodhana. Duryodhana had just had a fight with Bhima. And Duryodhana was almost on the point of death. So in order to please Duryodhana, this Ashwathama brought the 5 heads that he had cut off, killed the Upapandavas. But Duryodhana, when he learnt that this Ashwathama did not properly engage in fighting as a Kshatriya, of course, Ashwathama was not a Kshatriya, but still he was fighting. He was a Brahmana, but still he was fighting on the side of the Pandavas, on the side of the Kauravas. So still, he did not follow the principles of Dharma Yuddha. Against all principles of Dharma Yuddha, he killed those 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas. So Duryodhana condemned Ashwathama, and Duryodhana was not at all pleased by this action of Ashwathama. Now when Draupadi learnt that her sons have been killed in this very heinous way, she began to cry. Naturally, mother has lost her sons in a most unfortunate way. So Arjuna, who was present there, tried to pacify Draupadi and took a vow that he is not going to spare the life of Ashwathama. So Arjuna promised to Draupadi, I am going to bring his head, cut off his head in the similar way, and bring his head as a punishment to this Ashwathama. To pacify Draupadi, he made a vow. And Arjuna on his chariot, fully equipped with different weapons, he began to chase this Ashwathama. Now the battle is almost over. It is not yet completely finished. So Krishna is still driving the chariot of Arjuna. So on request of Arjuna, Krishna chased Ashwathama. Ashwathama was on a chariot also. When he saw Arjuna is coming, he could understand that Arjuna is now going to attack him. So he started running away in his chariot. Ashwathama started running away in his chariot. So Krishna chased him, and when Ashwathama understood that his life is in danger now, there's no escape, immediately he released one Brahmastra against Arjuna. Suddenly, Arjuna is seeing some blazing fire. Some astra is coming towards him. And he feels his life is in danger. Arjuna feels his life is in danger. And he asks Krishna, what is this astra which is coming towards me? So Krishna immediately told him, this is the astra released, Brahmastra released by Ashwathama. Out of fear of his own life, to protect himself, this foolish Ashwathama has released the Brahmastra. So Krishna directed Arjuna, now you counteract this Brahmastra by releasing another Brahmastra. And not only that, Krishna told Arjuna, you retract both the Brahmastras. So Arjuna accordingly, he released another Brahmastra to counteract the Brahmastra released by Ashwathama. And he also, after the two Brahmastras collided, there was a very big fire, the same as the fire at the end of the duration of the universe, when the entire universe is destroyed. This Brahmastra has got that capacity, that potential to destroy a whole universe. But since it was not the time for the destruction of the universe, and the Supreme Lord is the maintainer, everything goes on under his control. So he directed Arjuna, you counteract this Brahmastra and retract both the Brahmastras. So Arjuna did that. No danger for the universe, no danger for Arjuna, no danger for anybody from these Brahmastras. Then Arjuna immediately bound up, caught hold of Ashwathama, bound him like an animal. He did not like to kill this Ashwathama because he was thinking, after all, this boy Ashwathama is the son of my teacher Dronacharya. So Arjuna hesitated to kill Ashwathama immediately. So he just bound him up and decided that he is going to take this Ashwathama to Draupadi. So again, Krishna took the chariot, drove the chariot to where Draupadi was in the Pandavas' camp, with Ashwathama in the chariot, being bound by Arjuna like an animal. bound with ropes, tied up completely, hands and legs and everything. So Draupadi, immediately on seeing Ashwatthama being bound like this, she could not tolerate that Dronacharya's son is being disrespected like this, the son of the teacher. So she immediately told Arjuna, please release him. Please release him. It is not befitting our position to ill-treat this Ashwatthama, who is the son of our Guru. Please release him. Then the other Pandavas, they are looking at Arjuna, because Arjuna had taken a vow that he is going to cut off the head of Ashwatthama, who had so very heinously killed the 5 sons of the 5 Pandavas, the sons of Draupadi. So Yudhishthira agreed with Draupadi that Ashwatthama should not be killed. Even though he deserves to be punished, he should not be killed. Draupadi had several reasons why Ashwatthama should not be killed, even though he should be punished. She was thinking as a mother that just now I have been deprived of my sons, so I know what pain the mother feels when her son is killed. Similarly, I don't want Kripi, Dronacharya's wife, who just lost her husband in the fight. She should not again be crying for losing her son also. So this is one reason she said, don't kill this boy, because her mother will have to undergo extreme grief. Then the second reason Draupadi gave for not killing Ashwatthama to Arjuna was that, don't forget, it is by the mercy of Dronacharya that you learnt this Dhanur Vidya. Not only he taught you the Dhanur Vidya, but he also taught you so many secrets. Arjuna was the best student of Dronacharya. He was the best student not because Dronacharya particularly favored him over others, but just because Arjuna used to work very hard learning the lessons that Dronacharya taught. Not only he would practice very nicely during the daytime, he would practice his lessons even at night in the dark. So, Dronacharya noticed this, that this student of mine, among all my students, is specially so very keen on learning very thoroughly, very nicely. He was very pleased. Dronacharya was very pleased with Arjuna. He said, I am going to make you the best archer in the whole world. You're going to be my topmost student. And he began to give special lessons to Arjuna. Dronacharya gave special lessons to Arjuna. That's how Arjuna became the greatest archer in the whole world. Because Dronacharya was expert in this military science. He was the best teacher during his time. Bhishma had specially employed Dronacharya as the military teacher for the Pandavas and Kauravas. So, Draupadi reminds Arjuna that you are the favorite student of Dronacharya. By his mercy you have learnt. Now is it proper for you to kill his son because he did some mistake? No, you should not kill him. Spare his life. So Yudhishthira agreed with Draupadi and told Arjuna, don't kill him. You punish him, but don't kill him. Krishna, on the other hand, agreed with Bhima. Bhima said, no, you should not spare his life. He doesn't deserve to live. He should be immediately killed for the heinous act. You don't show him any mercy. He doesn't deserve. Krishna agreed with Bhima and said, yes, he doesn't deserve to be, his life to be spared. No. Even though a Brahmana should not be killed normally, but he is not acted like a Brahmana. He's not acted like a Brahmana. He's acted like a butcher. Sleeping children he has killed. So he doesn't deserve any mercy. So here is Arjuna. He has got Draupadi, Yudhishthira, Nakula, Sahadeva also on one side telling him, don't kill, punish him, but don't kill him. And on the other side, Krishna and Bhima are telling, kill him. Of course, Krishna was testing Arjuna's intelligence. Arjuna knew that the son of a Brahmana, even if unqualified son, should not be killed as punishment for any crime he may commit. But he should be punished in some other way. So Arjuna, using his intelligence, he decided not to kill Ashwatthama, but to punish him by completely taking away all his weapons and shaving off his hair. For a Kshatriya to lose his hair by the enemy for a fighter is an insult. It's a very great insult. In fact, a Kshatriya, a fighter, if he does not die in a battle in which he is defeated, it's an insult for him. So sparing the life of Ashwatthama itself was a big insult for Ashwatthama. Besides that, his jewel on his head was taken away by Arjuna and his hair was completely removed. And he was driven away from his residence. So these are the prescribed punishments for such a Brahma Bandhu, an unqualified descendant of a Brahmana, son of a Brahmana. So Arjuna punished him appropriately, and Krishna and all the rest of the Pandavas and Draupadi appreciated Arjuna's action in not killing him, but at simultaneously punishing Ashwatthama for the killing that Ashwatthama did. He was punished appropriately. Then this Ashwathama thought, anyway I could not kill the Pandavas. They are unconquerable. But there is one last surviving descendant of the Pandavas. That is the grandson of Arjuna, the son of Abhimanyu, in his mother's womb. So, Ashwathama decided to kill that last surviving descendant, the child in the womb of the mother. This Parikshit, the grandson of Arjuna, in the womb of his mother Uttara. So he released another Brahmastra, but this time the Brahmastra was specifically directed towards Parikshit only. The previous time Ashwathama released Brahmastra, he had not particularly directed it towards Arjuna. He just released it, and there was a danger that Brahmastra, the first Brahmastra released by Ashwathama, would have burned the whole universe. This second Brahmastra he released now specifically was directed towards Parikshit. So this Brahmastra is such a weapon, when it is directed towards one particular person, it will go searching for the person wherever the person is. So, since Parikshit was in the womb of his mother, that Brahmastra came towards Uttara. Uttara could immediately make out that there is danger for the child in her womb, for her child. So she approached Krishna and prayed to Krishna, kindly save my child. Even if I die, I don't mind. Kindly save my child. So Krishna immediately entered the womb of Uttara and completely evaporated the heat of the Brahmastra, the radiation, just like the sun evaporates some water in the form of dew, morning dew. As easily as that, Krishna counteracted that Brahmastra that Ashwathama had released against Parikshit Maharaj and saved the child in the womb. Now here is the description in little more detail. That was a description in the 8th chapter. Then after that, Kunti offered wonderful prayers to Krishna, and Krishna, after having completed his work in Hastinapura, reinstating Yudhishthira in the rightful position as emperor of the world, Krishna left Hastinapura for Dwaraka. So then there was a description, Kunti's prayers, then the passing away of Bhishma Deva in the presence of Krishna, then Krishna's departure for Dwaraka from Hastinapura, and Krishna's entrance into Dwaraka. That was the 11th chapter. Yeah. So now the sages of Naimisharanya, they are anxiously waiting to hear about Parikshit. So it is described Parikshit was saved. So Shaunaka is renewing the topic of Parikshit and is asking, how was Parikshit born in that womb of Uttara? Because he just heard that the child was saved in the womb by Krishna. And how did his death take place? And what destination did he achieve after his death? So kindly tell us about the birth, the activities, and the death of Parikshit. So, Suta Goswami is now describing the birth of Parikshit, what happened inside the womb of his mother. So it is described in this verse that Parikshit was a great fighter, Veera, great fighter. Now he is described as a great fighter because he was able to tolerate the unbearable heat of the Brahmastra even in his mother's womb. So this is the extraordinary prowess of Parikshit. Extraordinary prowess. Veeraha. Also, Parikshit could see someone else has come to protect me. Who is this person? So it was the Lord himself who had come inside the womb of Uttara, Parikshit's mother, to protect Parikshit. So he got an impression of the Lord. And what did the Lord do just after entering the womb? Then evaporating the radiation of the Brahmastra, immediately the Lord disappeared. Just for a brief moment, Parikshit had darshan of the Lord. So that impression remained after he came out of his mother's womb, after he was born. And rest of his life, he was searching, where is this person whom I saw in my mother's womb? So he became known as Parikshit, means the examiner. Every person he would see, he would check, is this the person I saw in my mother's womb? Is this the person? Is this the person? Everybody would examine, always remembering Krishna. So throughout his life, he was constantly remembering Krishna. In that way, without any other separate endeavor, Parikshit was first-class devotee of Krishna. Constantly thinking of Krishna, constantly remembering Krishna. So, the sages who were present at the time of the name-giving ceremony of the child, they told the history of this child. This child has been saved in the mother's womb by Krishna. Therefore, this child is growing up to be a great devotee, constantly remembering Krishna and always searching out for Krishna in remembrance of having seen Krishna in the mother's womb. So therefore, an appropriate name for him will be Parikshit, the examiner. Examiner of whom? Examiner of Krishna. So the sages, they directed the Pandavas to name the child as Parikshit. And the Pandavas did so. So here it is said that the great fighter, this Parikshit, he was able to endure the unbearable heat of the Brahmastra in his mother's womb. And Krishna, who is the protector of his devotees under all circumstances, he personally entered the womb of Parikshit's mother and saved the child. Of course, Krishna can do anything. He need not have to personally enter the womb of Uttara to save the child. He has got many different agents, he has got many different methods by which he can protect the child. But Krishna decided in this case to personally enter the womb of Parikshit's mother and save the child personally. By doing so, Krishna gave brief darshan to Parikshit and made him into a first-class devotee. Just by that one act, Parikshit became first-class devotee of Krishna. So this is Krishna's mercy, because Parikshit was a devotee even before he appeared in the womb of his mother. He was a devotee. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, my devotees, they are always protected by me, they can never be vanquished. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. This is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. He tells Arjuna, declare, my devotee shall never perish under any circumstances. So this is this is another instance where Parikshit was saved by Krishna in his mother's womb. Then in the purport, Prabhupada says one more thing. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. Actually, when the soul transmigrates from one body to another, the soul leaves one body, the present body, and it is guided by Paramatma to enter another suitable body according to its karma. There is a verse in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam that describes this transmigration. Karmana daivanetrena jantur deha upapattaye striya pravishta udaram pumso reta kanashrayaha. It is described by the Supreme Lord Kapila in his instructions to his mother Devahuti. In the 3rd canto it is described. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, Daivanetrena, and according to the result of his work, Karmana, the living entity, the soul, Jantuhu, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. So this is particularly describing human birth. If the soul has to get a human body, then the soul enters a mother's womb through the semen of the father. That is described by Prabhupada here. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of a father's semen, and thus he develops his desired body. Now, after entering the mother's womb, the development of the body takes place over a period of 9 months, and then the child comes out of the mother's womb. That we all know. But 7 months out of these 9 months, the child remains in a trance, in a state of trance, means not very conscious of the external atmosphere. Because in the mother's womb, the Bhagavatam describes in the 3rd canto, the conditions are most favorable for the growth of the body, development of the body, but not very comfortable in terms of the situation. The child is in an airtight bag, the womb of the mother, surrounded by all kinds of secretions of the mother's womb, which help actually the child to develop its body. But those secretions are very, very obnoxious. Blood, urine, stool, acid, so many kinds of other secretions. So, 7th month, when the child gets consciousness, external consciousness, then it is described when he is awake from trance. So 7 months the child is just in trance. No external consciousness. So nicely the body can develop. 7th month when he comes out of trance, he is awake from trance, then he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb of the mother. And he prays to the Lord, please help me get out of this place. So why this prayer? What is the inconvenience? That is described in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. There are so many worms that start biting the tender flesh of the child. Millions of worms, they start biting the child. Then so much of all kinds of secretions. The child cannot tolerate all this obnoxious atmosphere. So, helplessly the child begins to pray to the Supreme Lord, please help me get out of this. And if the child happens to be a pious soul, then the child prays to the Lord, let this be my last birth. May I never again enter another mother's womb to suffer in this way. So, Prabhupada says here, sometimes, fortunately, a soul prays to the Lord for such liberation to come out of the mother's womb and never again enter the mother's womb. So, this is the reality. Why is birth described as one of the 4 fundamental defects and 4 fundamental miseries of material existence? In 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes 20 items of knowledge. Arjuna asks, what is knowledge? What is jnana? Krishna says 20 items are described as constituting real knowledge. One of the items Krishna describes is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. To be able to understand, realize dukkha dosha, 4 kinds of dukkha and dosha of material existence. Dukkha means the misery, the suffering, and dosha is the defect. Even though we try to make adjustment and live here, permanently settle down, but these 4 things we cannot escape in any form of life in this material world. What are they? Janma, birth. Coming into material existence means one has to take birth in a particular type of body. And what that birth involves in terms of suffering, that is described in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. Mother's womb, how the child suffers. So, birth is not a very pleasing thing. No. So, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Mrityu, death. Jara, old age. And Vyadhi, disease. These four fundamental defects and miseries are part of material existence for all souls, all living beings, including the higher demigods. Everybody has to suffer these four defects and miseries. Dukkha dosha anudarshanam. So therefore the scriptures instruct us, get out of this cycle of birth and death. No more birth again. That's why Krishna says, Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha. If you become a devotee, then you don't again take birth. Tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti mameti sorjuna. After giving up this body, you don't have to take birth again if you understand in truth the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. So sometimes people wonder why punarjanma is bad. So the description is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. How the suffering is experienced by the child in the mother's womb. We all forget when we come out of the mother's womb. We all forget when we come out of the mother's womb, generally, we forget. This is one characteristic of conditioned life. To forget, first of all, material existence means we forget Krishna, our topmost well-wisher, our dearmost friend. We forget Krishna. We also forget our past experiences, especially the experience of suffering. We forget. So all of us have undergone the suffering in mother's womb, but after we come out, we forget. So one of the symptoms of a spiritually advanced person is to cultivate this remembrance of the fundamental defects of material existence. This forgetfulness of Krishna and forgetfulness of the fundamental miseries of material existence. This we have to come out of, this forgetfulness. So therefore, you should hear from the Shastra constantly about what is this material existence. In different places in the scriptures, material existence or material world is described in quite some detail. Then Krishna is also glorified in the Shastra. Both are there. So naturally we get attracted to Krishna and we develop detachment from material life itself. So then we properly prepare ourselves to go back to God. That's the whole scheme of presenting this Vedic literature. I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.